Good morning, everybody. Happy spring equinox. So, I'm being called to talk about what I would consider a distraction. And how do I bring that distraction into the realization of all the information that has been circulating insanely over the past few years? And in the last year, it has quadrupled insanity. Whether it's true or not, much of it is a distraction. So let's talk about how we originally got here. So you're going to hear stories about the Anunnaki, or a foreign godlike race from another planet, came to mine this earth for gold, silver, precious metals, whatever, minerals, metals, whatever it is, and take it to save their planet or save their race. And when the work became past what they, as their Anunnaki crew, could do, they then went into genetic creation of humans, earthlings, some with and without the God spark, to become the slaves. And that's where you get the story of Enlil and Enki, right? And then all the split ups into 12 families and so on and so forth, right? But all of it was about them coming here and stealing, what precious earth had, and creating slave armies, okay? And then leaving their residue behind. So now these humans, these earthlings, some with God's spark, some without, have been duking it out for millenniums, right? So you hear a lot of people talk about, oh, this is so true, I've studied this, and I'm like, okay. But when I look at things like this, things that go through my mind are like, okay, so we go to other planets and we take samples from all these other planets. We have satellites out there. We send little things out there to collect stuff in the middle of space. We have satellites around the Earth. Sorry, I just had an orb come through. Hello. Oh my God, I don't know if you guys can see that. So we have satellites that are around our Earth's orbit, and some will say, oh, they're to report on the weather. Some will say, oh, they spy on each other's countries. What do they do when they're spying on each other's countries? They're trying to steal top secret information. They're trying to spy on what they're doing, but it's all for the protection and the survival of the country that has the satellite. But then every country has a satellite, so everybody's spying on each other, stealing each other's information, monitoring each other's information, stealing ideas before you even put them on paper, through technology that can steal your thoughts, so on and so forth. And while much of this may be true or not true, it is a distraction, and it puts your nervous system, which is responsible for your emotions, into a complete and utter craziness. It puts it into other craziness. So it's utterly insane. It doesn't know what to do. It's like pouring water on an electrical circuit board. You can see it smoke and burn and go all crazy and, keep sparking. And so that's what we're doing with our nervous systems. That's what we're doing with our emotional bodies, because deep down, we all want to know where we came from. Everybody wants to know, where did I originate, right? Which then brings me to the topic of all these blood tests that can tell you where you came from, but doesn't really tell you a lot of other things. And then you can do your family trees and so on and so forth. But again, it takes you away from present day, present moment, heart-centered awareness. So until you can harness today, present moment awareness and sit there and be in a place of, for a lack of a better expression, neutrality, and just observe all the information without allowing it to attack your circuitry board and overwhelm your emotional body, because you've overtaxed your mental thinking and then your physical energetics and so on top of trying to get through your 9-to-5 day to put food on the table, to be a loving person for either yourself or your family, and also implement that into your work. Be a loving person at your job, right? So they're all distractions. They're all distractions. So again, we are taught to keep looking outside of ourselves repeatedly and get all of our information from everywhere else, instead of learning how to hone in and skill and drop our masteries into what we currently have as a human being in a physical avatar that houses the spirit for experiences recording into the soul. And so I had a conversation with someone this morning regarding all the fractals. And of course we have fractals. We have fractals from all bits and pieces of ourselves. So let's just take it into this particular lifetime that you're in. If you had, excuse me, trauma as a child, part of you may have fractionated away from your physical body and stored deep into emotional body. You may have had a negative experience with something that creates a whole other bubble that you're going to place somewhere. You may have had a physical injury, a broken arm, a collarbone, a concussion, that then takes that and places it into a pain body. And then you're always reminded of that pain body when you physically maybe do something to your head, your collarbone, your elbow, or your arm, or whatever it is that may have been injured or broken at one point. Not to mention all the emotions and activity prior to the injury and after the injury, right? So we talk about breakups, we talk about maybe not getting the right grade, we talk about, approval and disapproval from adult beings in your life that shape you and form you. And a lot of that causes ourselves to become fragments of ourselves, right? And about people like, one of the biggest movies around when I was a kid was Sybil, who had the multiple personalities, all to protect the original personality, which got buried so deep it was difficult to find out who the original one was. But we all have our counter egos. We all have our fragmented part of our soul self that's floating around or buried in places. And so even those kinds of things are subconsciously detracting us from being on our original God source path, unadulterated by all of these injuries. And then if you combine that with many different lifetimes, you come in pretty brutally beat up and separated from self, magnified by like thousands and thousands and thousands of yourself floating out there. And now trying to retrieve those and bring a few of them back in that may have some treasures for you, can become labor intensive, cost intensive, and painful. But we have to start somewhere, because we are here in the now, in this physical avatar, to awaken to the expanded possibilities of who we are as an individual and as a collective. But it starts with the individual, with being able to step back and step out of and go into all the different portions, particles, spaces, and places of the me, myself, and I, you in the universe. And so I think I have talked about in other videos, I profoundly started that journey back in the 90s. Now, before that, I always lived my life through in my 20s, starting in my 20s when I was out of the house and allowed to do what I needed to do, is when I really began to work with tarot cards and getting readings on a regular, learning how to trust my instincts, and then playing with them myself, learning how to use the pendulum, learning how to work through astrology. So I got deep, deep into all these other esoteric, mystical tools that are available to us. And then fast forward now to later in the 90s, then experiencing my own, very own past life regression, having really no knowing of it, or what it was really about, or if it was even had any validity in my world. But I wanted to, I'm a very curious person. I love to ask questions and learn about things, which is why I'm a people watcher. I study energy, and I study the movement of energy along with the physical expressions. Done that naturally since a kid. So my curiosity led me into a past life regression session where it was divinely bizarre that I found myself several hundred years before now. And anyway, so I've talked about those. And so then that propelled me forward to have the opportunity to later become a regressionist myself and share some of these techniques so that we can mend things that have been fractured, broken, punctured, flattened, what we think is removed, and a lot of qualities that can be treasures, and a lot of qualities that are sabotagers. They're sabotagers. You freaking don't know who you are in the R-ness of the isness of the you-ness, right? So regression work is very, very powerful. And so when you're about to step into a modality of healing for yourself, you will need to commit to less distractions. It's just like when you have to study for something, you're going back to school, which again, I'm studying something again right now. My other friend is studying something right now to advance career. And so a lot of us are going back to relearning things that we may have had small bits and portions of, and it's just we're learning it in a different way with a different mindset and a different heart set. But while we're in this learning process and taking the time out to study, we are letting go of things that don't need our utmost attention, that create distractions, right? So that we can take in and bring out the information that we need to not only pass certification and go to courses, but also to have a better understanding of the information. So when you commit with me, I'm going to ask you to open the window and to allow yourself to really be in that breezeway of the emotional, mental, physical, etherical, spiritual stuff that's going to come flying around. And we work through what's a distraction, as long as you can keep that window open and stay put with me for a little while, because sometimes in the deepest, weirdest, what appears to be painful really turns out to be, thank you for letting me work through that. I'm so glad that I did. I feel a piece of me coming back. I feel a piece of me is anchored and more strong. I feel more at peace with that piece of me that I didn't know was creating A, B, C, D, E, F, X, Y, Z. So, yeah. So as much as we're inquisitive and we really want to know about certain things, you can flip these channels and take in a lot of information, but what does it really do for you? Is it helping you be the better human in the here and now? Is it helping you and your soul be embodied into your heart center so that you're a walking, living, breathing soulness? Or is it just information to flap around out there that leaves you all frazzled on your nervous system and your circuitry boards not functioning at optimal rhythmic connections, right? So when our body's in homeostasis, our heart has a certain rate, our lungs will have a certain rate, our kidneys, our liver, our stomach. And then when we've eaten a meal, then the heart rate may change, the breathing may change, the way the liver's processing, the kidneys, and so on are changing because it needs to give a little bit more attention to the digestive tract. And just like when you're exercising a lot, your heart rate is up, so then your digestive tract and some of your other organs are on slow-mo, so that the blood flow and the cellular communication can be to keep the heart protected. So we have all these systems that are not functioning at their optimal rhythmic connective speeds. They're crazy. And then when you add all this additional information, it goes completely freaking haywire. If you could just see it on a cartoon like I do, because I'm visual, it's insane. And it will make you eventually, it'll force you into an illness. It'll force you to be bedridden and feel terrible because your body's saying, I need R&R bad. What are you doing to me? Right? So we've already had those repetitive lessons. And if we can look at them and say, okay, done repeating that stupid ass pattern. Let's make a change. Let's go into a regression session. Let's find out the pieces of me that are here to be my superpower, or here to be a very strong strength, or here that is a weakness that I can understand better, make it stronger, anchor it deep. And maybe there's a whole bunch of crapola that just needs to go because it's just taking up space. Everything that you do will bring that soul embodiment back into the physical avatar in a more complete and anchored, loving way with better understanding. So my link's in the description. Please like, subscribe, and share to this video. Know that you're walking, living columns of light. Own that damn column of light, folks. Own it. It's the only thing you have control over, is your column of light and your physical body in it. Don't you want to be the best you can be? I think you do. Let me help you get there. All right? Till the next video.